It's not shocking that hummingbirds are popular in Nebraska. Smaller than a dime but exquisite in appearance, these birds bring joy wherever they go. During the few months that they are in Nebraska, they are a popular sight for birdwatchers and gardeners alike. The hummingbird season in Nebraska is short, lasting only a few months out of the year. Hummingbirds are a common sight in Nebraska, but in order to view them you'll need to know when they arrive, when they go, and how to lure them into your garden or yard. Around the middle of May, hummingbirds begin to arrive in Nebraska. Starting about the middle of September and continuing through the first week of October, they start making their way back to their winter homes. Hummingbirds can be enjoyed throughout the months they spend in Nebraska by putting up feeders, planting flowers that attract them, and safeguarding the insects they eat. What time of year do hummingbirds first arrive in Nebraska? There are 4 migratory hummingbird species, but only the ruby-throated hummingbird is prevalent in Nebraska. In the middle of May, the ruby-throated hummingbirds start to show up in Nebraska. At first, you will observe the males, easily identified by their brighter flashes of color. A few weeks later, the females will arrive. Most hummingbirds will just fly right by on their route to the spring breeding grounds, which is a real bummer. The females in eastern and western Nebraska, on the other hand, will construct a nest, seek for a suitable mate, lay eggs, and nurture the young to adulthood. In Nebraska, when do hummingbirds arrive and depart? Can the apparent timing of a hummingbird's visit be estimated? Hummingbirds' migration patterns are quite consistent with those of other migrating animals. While their migration and arrival can be anticipated, the timing is unpredictable. Weather, storms, droughts, and shifts in the insect populations that make up their diet can all cause minor shifts in migratory patterns. What sorts of hummingbirds visit Nebraska? Nebraska is home to a relatively small number of hummingbird species. Only 4 of the 15 species of hummingbirds that spend at least some time in the United States can be found in Nebraska. Only one of those 4, the ruby-throated hummingbird, is a regular resident of the state. There have been sightings of ruby-throated hummingbirds in other parts of the United States, including North Platte, although their typical breeding range is in the Missouri River Valley. These little birds stand out from other hummingbirds and are easy to identify. Males can be identified by their green backs, forked tails, and ruby throats. The females have green backs and tails with black, white, and a bluish-green stripe. The rufous hummingbird is only occasionally spotted in the state of Nebraska, usually in the western part of the state during the fall migratory season. Each male rufous hummingbird has an orange-red, glossy throat. However, females are distinguished by their green back and crown and their speckled, off-white throat. The white tips of their rufous tail feathers set them apart visually. Other hummingbird species you might see in Nebraska are the broad-tailed and the calliope. However, unless their migration habits drastically shift, these species almost never appear in the state. The secret to having hummingbirds visit your garden in Nebraska. Making your yard more inviting is a surefire method to boost your chances of seeing hummingbirds in Nebraska. If you want to extend the time you get to spend watching hummingbirds, landscaping your yard so that it is attractive to them is a must. Put plants in your yard to see more hummingbirds. Pollination is crucial, and hummingbirds play a crucial role in that process. They collect nectar from beautiful flowers and spread it to other plants, making them superb pollinators. Grow flowers that are attractive to hummingbirds and other pollinators. Hummingbirds are drawn to tubular, multicolored flowers because of the abundance of nectar they provide. The black and blue salvia is an attractive annual in shades of cobalt blue that is a top choice for attracting hummingbirds. While technically classified as perennials, hummingbird mint is another popular choice that often only lasts for 1 or 2 growing seasons. Comparatively, the price of Salvia coccinea, Chinese sage, is lower than that of black and blue. It does equally well in full sun and part shade. At last, the tubular blossom shape favored by hummingbirds can be seen on the coral honeysuckle. If you want hummingbirds to visit your garden, you should take precautions to protect the insects that feed them. Hummingbirds can only get the nutrition they need from tiny insects. Getting rid of the insects in your garden will reduce the number of hummingbirds you see. An abundance of insects and other pests will make your garden more attractive to migrating hummingbirds if you happen to reside in an area where these birds only stop over temporarily. If you want to keep hummingbirds safe, you should not use any chemicals that harm insects. This includes fertilizers, weed killers, and pesticides. Is it a good idea to put out food for hummingbirds? To attract hummingbirds to your Nebraska garden, you need to establish the correct plants and flowers. However, a hummingbird feeder is also a popular addition for many houses. A hummingbird feeder is wonderful because it helps migrating hummingbirds replenish their energy stores in the weeks after their journey. In addition to using these feeders to stock up on food before their annual winter migration, the birds also use them to help them during the summer months. Red food coloring may be harmful to hummingbirds, so if you want to put nectar in your feeder, it's best to buy a clear pre-made variety. Hummingbirds can still be drawn without the use of dye if the feeder is brightly colored. When is the best time of year to hang hummingbird feeders in Nebraska? As early as you can in early May is a good time to start preparing your hummingbird feeders for the spring hummingbird migration. It's best to keep 2 hummingbird feeders apart from each other so the birds won't accidentally kill each other. This is due to the fact that hummingbirds are extremely territorial, and will go to great lengths to keep other hummingbirds away from their territory and feeders. Spreading out the feeders lowers the likelihood of this happening and should attract more birds. Where do hummingbirds go when they leave Nebraska? Females and young hummingbirds will soon follow the males once they leave. Only a few weeks are required for the entire process, and at the end of that time, thousands of hummingbirds will have fled Nebraska. We need to know why the male hummingbirds are the first to leave Nebraska. It's been observed in practically every hummingbird species that the males leave first during migration. Male hummingbirds can arrive up to 2 weeks before females, so it's likely that you'll see their vivid plumage before you see any ladies. Female hummingbirds will start nesting and looking for a mate as soon as they arrive, and then they will lay eggs, incubate them, and tend to their young until they hatch. To avoid having to share food with females and young birds, male hummingbirds always leave first when it's time to leave. This provides the best opportunity for adolescents to gain weight and strength before setting off on their journey. When is the right time to put away the hummingbird feeders? Dependent on when the hummingbirds have completed their migration through the area, you can safely put away your feeder. Keep your hummingbird feeders in your garden until at least 2 weeks after the last hummers have left. In this method, you can help the hummingbirds that are leaving later or more slowly than the rest of their flock. Hummingbird feeders in Nebraska should be left out until about the middle of November. You will have taken full advantage of the hummingbird season if you maintain your feeder stocked until the middle of November. To share is to care.